Hello and welcome to another Tabletop Ramblings Middle-earth strategy battle game, Battle Report. Today's 600-point battle report pitches the Iron Hills against the Goblin Town Dol Guldur alliance. Leading the forces of the Iron Hills, we have Dain himself, the very old metal Dain there, leading 9 warriors with spear and shield and 1 with a banner, spear and shield, proxied there by the Khazad banner. We've also got a captain with 9 spearmen, and then at the back a captain with 1 spear and shield and 3 crossbowmen. The forces of evil are an unholy union of Dol Guldur and Goblin Town. Goblin Town contingent is led, of course, by the Goblin King, and he is the overall army leader as he is a hero of legend, and he has with him 10 goblins. He's backed up by Grinner, who has 8. There's a Goblin Mercenary with 3 Goblin Mercenaries who can do that Deep Strike rule into terrain after turn 2. And then the Goblin Scribe with just 2 guys to carry him around, who's hopefully going to be spawning loads of goblins into battle. The final warband is an allied contingent of a Nazgul of Dol Guldur, who is going to be the Witch King for that 3 might. And he is leading 8 Hunter Orcs, 6 Gundurbads with spear and shield, and a Banner Gundurbad with spear and shield. This is the table that we're going to be playing on today. It's got lots and lots of little bits of scatter terrain, simply because they are new, and new is always fun. Just lots of different aquarium plants and bits and bobs like that. And this table is going to be host to Command the Battlefield, all about taking the quarters of the board and ignoring that central worthless ground. Then there's also some points for killing and wounding the enemy leader and for breaking the enemy. This game ends at 25%, and as it's Maelstrom of Battle, let's get stuck straight into turn 1 priority. So priority turn 1, and it goes to Evil. Starting off with the Scribe, and he gets a 5, so that's his choice, east or west, and he goes down there in the bottom right corner. Next up we have Grinner, who on a 6 can go anywhere, so he goes up to support the Scribe. Next up, the King, and he gets a 6, so anywhere he wants, and he goes on the other side of the Scribe to keep him nice and protected. Finally, the Witch King gets a 2, which is pants. So he uses 2 might to come on near the rest of the army. Otherwise, it would have been enemy choice and it'd have been miles away and isolated. Finally, the mercenaries decide to stay off the pitch to deep strike. We then have the forces of good, and going first, Dain gets a 6. So he decides to come on and challenge Grinner and friends to rush the Scribe. Then a good roll of a 5 for the crossbowman captain. He comes in on the other side just to get some battlefield control, but the other captain gets a 1, leaving Dain exposed. An overview then of the end of turn 1. Evil nice and together, Dain trying to challenge them. So we go into turn 2 priority, and it goes to Evil. They pull back slightly, still wary that the captain for the Iron Hills is still to come on and could get behind them. So they've stayed fairly safe, and the King is going after Dain. Courage test there for the Scribe, but he doesn't get any of his friends in. Then the mercenary captain passes a courage test, and he comes in from the board edge because there's no suitable terrain, and he is between the 2 board quarters there for some good board control. This is how the engagements are looking, while on the other side of the battlefield, the Iron Hills just move across. Then, at the end of their move, a nice roll of a 6 sees the captain come in behind Dane to give him some support. And then this is how we're looking at the end of the movement phase. But into combats, we have Dane completely bottling it there against 2 goblins. He has got a banner reroll, still doesn't help him. He's going to hold on to his might. And they actually get to take a swing at him. That 6 has only come up because we've knocked the dice. They take some swings and do nothing against him. But still an embarrassing start there from Dane. The 4 spearmen there do manage to kill a goblin, and the other 4 also kill a goblin. So not a bad start for the Iron Hills, but disappointing from Dane. And again, an overview of the board. So turn 3 priority, a draw. So it goes to the Forces of Good. There are no heroics called, so Good form a line and just try and get into combat as best they can. Evil shimmy the Goblin Scribe back. He's a heavy object, so they're just shimmying him back with the 2 goblins. And he then takes his courage test of a 7, so he does pass. And then D3 means just 1 goblin comes in, which is fairly pants. He's just there to taunt those guys. And then this is how we're looking. Good couple of combats. The captain has been charged by the Goblin King. Again, another overview of the board. Board control fairly even at this point. Into combat, though, we have Dane, and he, again, loses the fight, but he does get a 6 there on the banner reroll. So he's won that fight. He's holding on to his might. He's not calling any heroics at this point. He gets that kill, but there wasn't really anywhere he would have been able to go. Next up, the captain and spearman set a high bar of a 5, but it's not the captain's dice, against the fight 6 king, who gets 6s anyway, and wins. That captain now in a little bit of trouble. The burly 2-handed pick is quite brutal, and there is a dead captain. That is absolutely savage. Can't even fate it. That is nasty. The rest of the fights, though, after that big blow of losing the captain, do go quite favourably for the Iron Hills, and they slaughter every goblin that they are in contact with. End of the turn then, and only 1 Iron Hills dead, compared with a good handful of goblins, although that Iron Hills warrior is a captain, so that is a big blow there to the Iron Hills. Into next turn priority, turn 4, and priority goes to Good. Goblins aren't happy with that, so Grinner calls a heroic move, countered by Durin's Master of Battle there. It goes off on a 4+, that 5 gets it, but the roll-off goes to Evil. So Grinner and friends will be going first. Grinner can't really do much, but a lot of his friends get the charge, including the king, and bringing in some Hunter Orcs. And importantly, allowing the Scribe to get a massive 11, which means 4 goblins are going to be coming in, because that's over his courage test, and then on a D3, another 3. So 7 goblins come in. They can charge. They just pile in behind the line. Over on the left-hand side, the Witch King and some friends have moved off to challenge the captain and crossbowman, and the lonely goblin is hiding behind some flowers. Shots, though, the crossbowmen have stood still. They take 1 shot, but it gets stuck on some bushes. In the combat phase, the Goblin King calls a heroic combat, and the Master of Battle for Dane, 4+, he also gets a combat. Goblin's not too worried as he can't really go anywhere, and it goes to Good first. So Dane sets an atrocious bar. There is a cocked dice to a 1, so he's still losing to the 4 high from the goblins. Oh, it's not good there. And there we are. So he gets a 5. He does beat the goblins. Took him re-rolling those cock dice and all that to do it. But he does at least win, and he kills. He can't really go anywhere without opening up the line. So he just backs away and stays with his friends. Then the Goblin King smashes it there on a 6. He's in combat just with the one guy. He pulverizes that poor chap, and then he moves on and into 2 there, just to try and clear out some guys. He wins the next combat, despite banner reroll there, for good. And then with his big burly two-hand pick, that 4 easily enough, he's just smashing everything to pieces. Kills 2 more guys. In the generic fights, the Hunter Orcs backed up are quite lethal and do manage to bring down an Iron Hills warrior. The Iron Hills push back the other Hunter Orc and kill a Goblin, but then next to the banner, these 2 are pushed back, as is the guy with the banner. Not so good, but their armour does see them fairly safe there. When they lose fights, they tend not to die. The chaps who came in from the scribe get slaughtered, with 3 of the 4 getting killed. End of the turn, and the Iron Hills are holding steady, although they are starting to lose a couple of guys, especially now that the Goblin King is in and ripping his way through warriors. On to turn 5 priority, and it goes to good again. So again, Grinner calls a heroic move. Can Dane counter? No, at least not for free, and he chooses not to spend a point of might. So Grinner and friends charge in, and the scribe takes a courage test, but on double ones doesn't get any friends to join the fight this turn. So we have the counter charges from good. The king is now surrounded, although he has the fight value, he's not too worried. Then back over to the left, and the forces of evil are just running full tilt at those crossbowmen who stood still, so they're going to take shots into the lightly armoured Hunter Orcs. 2 hits and 2 kills. Strength 4 on defense 4 whips out some of evil's power on the left. Combat phase, Enduring calls a heroic combat to try and bring down the Goblin King, who does call a strike. The dwarf hero, however, bottles it. He's got a banner reroll, 3 high, still a 2 with the banner. What a waste of a heroic. The banner is in combat, but as it's a 6 high for the goblins, nothing the banner can do with his -1. Goblins don't wound, but that is just abysmal there for the dwarves. The Goblin King, however, now fighting against 4 guys, gets a 6, easily does it. He is going to be wounding on 4s with his big burly two-handed club, and he smashes in 2, doesn't bother miting that last one. That is a very impressive set of kills for the Goblin King, really on a roll at this point. The rest of the combats see goblins pushed back, most of the Iron Hills now having to shield where they don't have spear support. And then up here, still winning quite a lot of fights with shielding. They've got the fight value, but when they lose, they are starting to fall. That trapped Hunter Orc managed to get a kill, the other 2 as well. And then finally, this chap right on the end loses the fight, but does survive. We then go to the back line, where shielding and strong armour sees them not get any kills, but at least survive, holding the Iron Hills rear. End of the turn then. The goblins have good board control, and the kills are quite even now, which is not good when a goblin is 4 points and the Iron Hills are 12 and their captain an 80-odd point model. Good. Really need to start getting some serious kills and breaking the evil force. Turn 6, and priority goes to good. They've got a lot of priority here. Grinner's last point of might, he calls a heroic move. Can Dane's Master of Battle? No, he's not going to count it on a 3. So close. So he calls it with a point of might. He had to think about it. But anyway, it goes to evil, so it's a waste of might. Not ideal, and his forces are now fairly swamped and trapped. It's not looking good now for the Iron Hills, who are predominantly now going to have to shield or really risk it. Another botched courage test from the scribe, though. On the left, lots of combats there. The Witch King getting in on the captain. Board control still in the hands of evil. We'll start off on the left, even though there are actually heroic combats on the other side. But the first combat is the Witch King and friend against the Captain. Even fight value, the Captain has to spend mites to draw the fight, but he loses on the roll-off. So the Witch King and friend, can they do some damage? Yes! 2 wounds, sees the Captain dead. If he fails this fate, can he survive? Yes. He's fated it up, but he's now on 1 wound, no fate. The rest of the fights see a goblin dying, and then just a pushback, and then on the other side, a dead Iron Hills warrior. Then where we should have started, Dane's heroic combat, he gets a 6 finally, and wins a fight. He is looking to kill this goblin so that he can get in on the Goblin King, and he does it. He is into combat now with the Goblin King. The Goblin King has struck up, but it is now a Hail Mary for the forces of good. Dane gets a 3 high. He is really, really pants. His friends managed to get a 5, not too bad. There will be a banner reroll floating around, but the king has got a 6. And with his strike, it is all over for the forces of good, hoping to do anything with that. I believe that was a banner reroll, or possibly the strike there. But either way, good have lost. They back away, and then going after Dane, that is a wound on a 6. I did initially think he had 1 point of fate, so he just rolls the 3 and bottles it. Then, having double checked, he's actually got more, and his 2nd point of fate, he does save that wound. The rest of the combats, and good managed to push back at the back of their line, and this trap chap takes 10 strikes and survives. We then have the Bannerman, who survives, but his friend not so lucky. The other guy also falling. Fairly brutal now. This chap here again dies. He's against 2 attack Hunter Orcs and friend. But the final 2 shielding Iron Hills do survive. However, even with those 2 surviving, it's too little too late, and the Iron Hills are now broken. And Evil definitely have a lot more board presence. It's a definite uphill battle for the Iron Hills as we go into turn 7 priority, which goes to Evil. Evil charge up on the left, and then engaging very, very nasty down here, just trapping everything, looking to really drown out the last of the Iron Hills. Then a passed courage test, passed by 3, so there's going to be at least 3 goblins coming in, and D3, that's 6 goblins coming in to really rub salt into the wound. In the combat phase, it's Evil priority, so they elect to go after the Bannerman first. The Banner does get a 6 down to a 5 and loses the fight there. He can't do anything about that. The goblins now looking to kill him. They need a 6 to do it. First set of strikes do nothing, as do the second. Very, very poor. They just shimmy back, and the Banner is fine. Next up, we have Dane the Unreliable against a 5 high from the Hunter Orcs and friends, but Dane gets a 6. He's won the fight, pushing back those Hunter Orcs and the 2 goblins. He's looking to really smash them up. He doesn't need much. 6 and a 4 will do it, definitely not a 1. And he kills a Hunter Orc and friend. Vengeance. Then the King, he wins. Oh, in fact, no, he loses, sorry. He does have a banner, and he still loses. He has got might, but he doesn't bother spending it. So he is pushed back. He doesn't take any wounds as the guy was shielding. Then Grinner and friends get a 6 high. They've not got the fight value, but the shielding guy only gets a 4 high. So then Grinner and all his friends. Grinner in the slightly more see-through red dice, but loads of high dice, and he is slaughtered. Over on the left, the Witch King wins or at least gets a 6 rather, against the captain and wins the fight. Even though the captain's shielded, he is surrounded and in trouble. He's only got 1 wound, no fate left. So the Witch King at strength 4, needing 6s, gets the kill twice over. That is a dead captain. Now both the captains dead. The other fight sees just the forces of evil backing away. Then over with the main combats, goblins losing fights, but the forces of good struggling to wound. They are also struggling to stay alive, especially when trapped by 2 attack hunter orcs. It is a massacre. And with those last few kills, the Iron Hills are quartered, and that is the end of the game. This contested quarter is overwhelmingly evil, as is the bottom left corner. Far too many models, and then both of the top corners are controlled there by the goblin mercenaries. A resounding victory there for evil. Not only then have they got all 4 quadrants, more than 2 to 1 for 8 victory points, they've also broken the Iron Hills while being unbroken themselves for a 10-0 victory to the forces of evil. I hope that you enjoyed this battle report. 2 new armies for the channel, certainly the Iron Hills, and the Scribe as well is new. I've only just got around to painting him up, and he is a bit of a new favourite. So again, hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like, comment and subscribe, and as well do hit that bell so that you're notified of future videos. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.